in general, I don't push people to woman or man, doesn't matter, to work in IT. The main thing for me is really to understand yourself, and that helped me to understand myself and then to follow where I feel the most vital.
Welcome to Keep IT Healthy podcast, a show hosted by people making things happen in technology, aiming to optimize healthcare delivery, health, well-being, and fitness. My name is Jan Kamiński and I'm the co-founder of A4BEE, a company dedicated to improving the quality of life with IT solutions and digital advisory. We started making this podcast to amplify great thinking to propel healthcare forward. Our guest today is Karolina Marzantowicz, co-founder of A4BEE. Hi.
Hi, good morning. Jan, thank you for inviting me.
We have this tradition that we always start with our guests with their background. So if you can tell us more about your career path and career journey, starting from, corporation, IBM, to co-founding A4BEE and later different companies, right? So could you tell us more about the background and the story?
Yeah, sure. And first of all, I may surprise you, but IBM, where I spent 18 years, was not my first company where I work in. But in general, in terms of the IBM I started, maybe this is the biggest part of my professional career I spent there. And I started as a data and integration specialist, developer and specialist. So, maybe not the junior role, but really the hands-on professional, IT professional. And just jumping from this, first few years, in 2017, I was recognized as an IBM Distinguished Engineer, and it was really something. Like, it was the first person from Central Eastern Europe recognized with such title. And it was really, really something, not only for me, but, for all IBM technical population in Central Eastern Europe, and also for, the female part of this community. A year later, I joined the IBM CE management team as a Chief Technology Officer of Central Eastern Europe. And it was really, big change in terms of the goals, objectives, and expectation from the company. It was really more the management position, including the operational management, than technical role, even if the title was Chief Technology Officer. And at the certain level, what I realized, during that times, that at the certain level of the career development, when you jump into the executive position in management, it's really more management, internal work than technical work or, external work with the customers. And it was time for me to move. I realized that I really enjoy working with customer, working close with technology, solving, business challenges with technology. And I don't have that much fun staying at IBM. So, but during working at IBM, I met many extraordinary technical people, researchers, architects, developers. And among them, I met Łukasz, Krzysztof, and Tomek. Łukasz is from Warsaw, Krzysztof and Tomek, both of them, they are from Wrocław. So, while working in IBM together or sometimes in pairs, we implemented few unique projects, really unique in terms of the global IBM. We also ran, several initiatives which were recognized globally. Those initiatives, they were focusing on the technical leadership. And, it helped us to decide that we want to build the company together. We didn't know how challenging it could be, but this is what we decided. So, I decided to leave the prosperous career at IBM and jump into an unknown Yeah, but it was really good move, from the time perspective. What I could say that I could do this step earlier.
Right, and I know you spent some years in the and then founding your own company. Probably these were just two completely different environments. But didn't you have this? I mean, did you sometimes miss it, or do you sometimes miss it, the corporate structure?
Not at all. So I think, as I told you, running own company, it's a ride with unknown. There are ups and downs. It is really challenging. At the beginning, you need to do everything. Even buying a toilet paper to the office, this is on your shoulders. So you are responsible for everything, for customer, for delivery, for managing the financial aspects of the company. And it was extremely challenging, in A4BEE because the company, which is good, had year to year 100% growth in terms of the people, in terms of the revenue, and also in terms of the profit. So, each year we had, half of the employees who spent less than 1 year in the company.
And could you tell us more about the company itself? What do you do? What is it all about? And how the idea? I mean, where did the idea come from?
Yeah, A4BEE is mostly consulting company, IT consulting company, but the company is focusing on the biotech and pharma customers or industry, let's say in that way. And how we came up with this specific industry, because even me myself, in IBM, I was focusing on financial services, not biotech, not pharma. But one of the founders, Łukasz, he had and he has still a lot of relationship in biotech. And during the discussion, what meaningful can we do? We discuss different options, what we want to do, whom we want to support. And we just realized that, all of us, we work in consulting at IBM. We deliver services, business services, IT services, but it was our core. All of us, we really like, or we still like, working with customers. It was, the strength of each of us. So yeah, the biotech, the pharma, it was like the first insight that maybe we could disrupt the pharma manufacturing in some ways. But at the beginning, we started just, from delivering the IT services. It is not, I will say, the software house, because it may look like it is, another software house. But on top of, delivering the pure, IT services, we also have our own research lab, digital lab, when employees are designing or creating the intelligent hardware, which could be applied in the biotech or biomanufacturing process, like the elements for bioreactors, intelligent elements for sensors used in the bioreactors. And this combined knowledge about understanding the automation, intelligent automation, and IT help us to really, find this niche. And since early beginning, we work only for the global key players, not for Polish companies or small companies, but really for the key global players. Sometimes we support Polish companies as well, but mostly our customers, they are still in this segment.
Oh, I like it. I mean, this is the way, and if you do consulting, and especially IT, the specialization is, I think, the only way to just be actually just more profitable than the average, and have this unique selling point. But so one of the founders came up with this idea for the niche, and how long have you been working on the company?
So, officially I joined in July 2019. The first meeting we had in 2018, but, to really prepare, like the succession in IBM, I officially left the company in April 2019. So this is how it started, officially from that legal perspective. Yeah.
So you were doing it for a few years, and out of your experience, what were or what are the biggest challenges of scaling a consulting service, business service, professional services company these days, especially?
So, this year is different for the first time in our history. I think it is more stable. So it is really different, and it is hard for me to, to right now to see any trends. But, the previous 4.5 years, they were very dynamic. And, as I started to tell you, the challenges, they were like continuous in terms of the, what is needed internally for the company. Do you need an office or not? Do you need one office or maybe two, one in Wrocław, one in Warsaw? Do we need processes, and when should we implement some of the processes? How should we care about our employees? Because at the beginning, it was just a group of friends. But, in the certain moment in time, you need to, you grow and you need to think about the different aspects. And from the, consulting company, at the beginning especially, we try to not employ people, specialists, if we would not have a job for them, project for them. So which means there was like almost nobody on the bench.
Right.
But in case there are new projects coming up, we were in trouble. Because one of our also, I think the strength was the flexibility and how fast we could start the work with the customers in case they have some, urgency. But it was really challenge, first of all, to find the people, but also to find the right people. Because in small company, having the right people is extremely important.
Probably because this is a very interesting combination, because it's not only software and consulting that you do, but it also has this hardware component, which I believe is pretty rare. I mean, there are not many companies doing this. But how did you come up with that sort of, let's say, business line? Was it because of the client's needs? So they essentially came up to you and said, hey, maybe you can do it for us. And then you started thinking on how to build R&D or lab to actually meet the client's needs? Or was it an idea from the start that you will combine hardware and software for the clients?
So first of all, this is the specification of the biotech. If you and I think that probably with the medtech is a similar case. Yeah, how many equipment do you have to care about the health of the people? And the same is with the biotech. How many equipment do you need to discover new compounds, to work on the new drugs, to manufacture them? Yeah. So this is like the, it is different from retail, e-commerce, or even, banking or insurance. We have really close connection to the real hardware, real things. Yeah. And on the other hand, the industry, sometimes, I was working with financial industries, big banks, and, they were moving very, very slowly into innovation, adopting some emerging technologies. So I complained a lot for their peace when I, recognize how slow it is in the biotech and pharma manufacturing. It's even, you even cannot compare this. And it is also because of the regulation, the human safety, even life is at risk. And because it is very closely, connected with the hardware, you cannot update hardware that fast how you can, update or fix software. So on the one hand, this is the, specific of the industry. You have a lot of different type of the equipment, even the lab equipment. Not all this equipment need to be smart. It is better if it is intelligent. It can gather more data, but usually it is not. But there are a lot of equipment. The labs, the biotech labs, all these specialists in the labs, they work with equipment and some biocomponents, like cells, for example. So this is one aspect. So if you want to jump into that sector, you need to be aware that, there will be not only IT part, but there will be also information, the automation part of the business. You need to manage hardware, equipment, and you need to do this in the safe way. So this is one of the, part of this niche. Another is to really have a people with the passion to that. So, me, I am IT person. I'm not, the person with a passion to electronics. I like to play at home with some, intelligent stuff for lights or, windows, but this is all. But, we, since early beginning, we had people with the passion to that. And we work closely with the Wrocław University of Technology. We identified the, new employees there, the young people. And this is how it started. And it was really a key. I would say that, from the customer perspective, IT is important. They need to go into digital more and more. But you cannot do this without the automation part and the hardware part. Maybe, manufacturing, designing, and prototyping hardware itself is not necessary, but you need to know what is the automation part, how to manage the hardware, how to manage equipment, because this is, totally different solution. And to be honest, before A4BEE, I was unaware about the automation part of the IT world. So great things to learn.
You mentioned that at the beginning you had some relationship because probably you work mainly with corporate clients, especially because of the niche you're in, bigger companies, bigger players, enterprise level. But it's very hard for smaller companies to get in. So especially at the beginning, and you're fairly young company in a sense, right? It's not like you're on the market for 20 years and you are scaling with time, of course. As I saw it, you're over or around 150 people, right now on your website. But what was the sales process at the beginning? Was it like relations or driven, or rather, because it's obviously there are a few ways on how to approach it, but it's definitely impressing and very challenging for just a young company to just be able to work with corporate clients. So that's an achievement. But could you elaborate on that? Like, what was your strategy from the beginning?
So I think this is also, kind of the unique example, at least from my perspective, also, knowing many companies with the similar capabilities like software houses, yeah? But, this year, 2023, is the first year when we have people purely responsible for sales. First year. So before, we didn't have anybody responsible for sales. And, we tell that, first of all, everyone is responsible for sales, but mostly the owners, yeah, at the time. And how did we sell? Just, being with the clients, being part of the project team, because really, usually, even I think till now, we participate in the projects if it is needed. And, running projects with the quality we would like to run the projects was one of the way how we want the next project. So it was really without size, but recommendation. We started with one small project, and then, in 3 months, we had 3 projects. Some of the employees of our customers, they also changed their job. So, and they were happy with our work. They see the difference, how we work and how others, subcontractors work, even without selling, but just providing really high-level services. extremely flexible, but really with the high quality, even with the taking care about, the details. As you know, our 4 founders, let's say, we had the great experience from IBM in consulting. So everything, and this is, I'm saying with proud, like, the presentations, the documentation, we took care about those details. So not only the quality of the solutions, but also all those small things which impressed our customers.
I also read you mentioned that a lot of times in the publications on your LinkedIn that you're like employee centric. But when I was researching that, it actually seems that you're really employee centric because you've implemented a few solutions or you tested a few solutions at your workspace as, for example, 4-day week, etc. As I've read it. What are the strategies then? Like why you went that way?
I think that first of all, it is intuition. And this is one of the part I'm personally proud of, because I was responsible for culture part, on top of consulting and doing the projects. And I think it was our, joint intuition, what we want to do. So one of the goal from the beginning was to create a company each of us would like to work for. And, having different perspectives, but also being like each of us, we were parents. Two of the founders, they were single parent. The 3 of us had 3 kids. So, all those, we wanted to work fully remotely. So I used quite often before pandemic, the workation. So, going for 2 months and work from Indonesia, for example. So, those our own needs, we try to first of all implement it in A4BEE. It was one reason. Another one was like the objective was really to eliminate all those things we hated at IBM. There is no employees assessment or performance, nothing like that.
I will dig deeper into that topic of this 4-day week that because it seems really interesting because you actually tested that. And what were the results of that? I mean, are you actually operating that way, or what was the result? Because you published that and you were talking about this openly, so I'm really curious about this.
Yeah, I remember that that there was some moment in I don't know, it was like 2000, probably 19, and then pandemic started, and many journalists mostly. Not companies, they started to talk about this 4-day week, that this is the future. And, I am engineer, so I am fact person. So I just wanted to check, how they came up with this idea, what is the reason behind. And I couldn't find any, data. So this is, why we decided to run this, but to run this as a research project. So we prepared the whole research methodology, define the cultural group and the research group and everything, how we would evaluate this research project. So it was like the engagement of everyone in the company, no matter if you was part of the 4 days week or not. You are part of this research project. And also the goal was to share the results, no matter how they would look like. We promised that we will share the results because I miss that. So I really wanted, other entrepreneurs or managers to know, to learn from our experience. And then, jumping to the results, what we discover, and it surprised us a lot. But maybe this is also specific to our company or maybe to IT industry, hard to say. So first of all, the employees in our company, which were part of the project, they don't want to work 4 days a week. They want to work with less distraction. They want to have more time during work for learning. This is not that they want to work less, they want to work differently. And, one of the outcomes of that was that we designed 2 slots, 4-hour slots in the calendars, which were blocked Wednesday till 1 p.m. and Friday starting from 12. That there was the time, totally focused time. You don't need to pick up your phone. You don't need to be up front of the computer. You even you can go to the, I don't know, bank or whatever you want. You can learn, but this time is a focused time. Nobody from the company should expect that you will be, reading emails. We didn't want it to make this rule also like the mandatory because this is also something we don't want to implement, but it was strong recommendation to respect those rules.
I know, except for the main company, you're also a founder of Modica. But I was wondering if that's actually a part of your group, in a sense that's a lab that you mentioned, that's an R&D lab, or it's a completely separate structure and it's not directly connected with the main business. What's the case?
I think that, this is another company. This is even not a daughter company, but this is, another entity. But, how it is connected to A4BEE, I will say, because, working with the customers, we realize what they need and what they do not have. And the consulting business, at least, till now is quite, profitable. But to implement and to introduce to the market products, it's totally different story. And we try to introduce some products over the last 3 years, but really without success because really in heart we were focusing on consulting.
Right, it's a common problem among software development companies. I know you're considered. I mean, you mentioned you're in different, but it's like professional services, consulting, software development, different angles. But still, a lot of companies are trying to build their products. A lot of them fail. Obviously, it's like a dream of every company to build their own product at scale. On top of it, although out of my experience as I saw different companies, like this is probably, as I understand, your strategy to just push out the idea to a different entity, different people responsible, and just have it separately rather from your main business, because then the cultures are just completely different product services. Just that. That's my experience. But was it that the case?
Yeah, it was very similar approach. So there were a few prototypes we work, and we decided to focus on one of them. It was the modular equipment for biotech manufacturing, or at least some of the components of this, not working, MVP, but, some parts were already prototype and even verified by the customers because it is modular. So some of the modules, they were already, maybe not production ready to put them up, to start the production of those modules, but verified by the customers in terms of the capabilities they offer, how they can be used on the biotech production lines, for example. And it was the idea to do that move. It wouldn't be possible without A4BEE. And on the other hand, I cannot imagine right now the intelligent hardware product or equipment, without really strong and intelligent software part with, focusing on the data. So this is in terms of the final product. It even needs to have both parts. And the hardware part, equipment part, is easier for let's say, the current players on that market, providing the solutions to those big pharma companies. But the software, the digital part, the data part, integration part, this is for them new, because in the past or even till now, there was no requirements for that. So I think that we are in the sweet spot, understanding the hardware, the equipment. We know how to integrate it, how to make it even more intelligent. And then we really know how to work with those emerging technologies or traditional technologies. And this is where, where can we bring the value?
Right. And how do you envision the future of digitalization in this sector? I mean, biotech, pharma. So, like, what are the biggest challenges that they face from the digitalization perspective? Is it like the technological debt, or rather, like, what's your opinion on that?
So looking at, all the trends and even some, industry specific organizations, there is huge need for the digitalization, and especially in terms of implementation of the emerging technologies like AI and quantum in terms of the drugs discovery. Right now, introduction to the market, new drug is around 8-10 years. Probably, you are in the healthcare industry, so probably you know a little bit about that. It is a really long time. And then the cost of manufacturing are extremely high. They are maybe not that high if we think about the generic drug, like paracetamol or something like that. But think about all those genetic diseases. You need a drug. First of all, you need to discover a drug which could be applied, for example, for 1,000 people on Earth. There will be no more interest in that drug. This is genetic disease. It's easy really to count how many people could use that drug. And the cost of the research is probably the same. Even could be higher, because how you would go through all this, tests, clinical tests, jumping from one phase to another, if the population is that small. So the cost of the drug research is extremely high. There is no interest in really discovering those drugs, because you need to invest a lot, and then you would not gain that much money. Or you would gain, but this is like, we can hear from media from time to time the examples like 250 children with this disease, the specific disease, and all of them, they need to get the drugs, the treatment during first 24 months. And the cost, I don't know, monthly was like the 400 USD. 400,000 USD. So just imagine the cost of that. And you need to start, treatment as soon as possible. So, one of our goals was to change or disrupt the production of the manufacturing. So the companies could use, even hospitals could use the modular bioreactors, set up, locally, not acquire, buying the drugs from the big pharma and paying for the distribution and everything, but really doing the manufacturing, for example, for the country needs on site. In terms of the trends for digitalization, the need for the data could speed up the discovery and lower cost for discovery of such drugs like gene cell therapies drugs, because they are very specific. They would bring, much more benefits for patients, but they are very, very expensive.
What will be the evolving market? I mean, in your opinion, companies like yours in the future years, what should they focus on strategically, client-wise? Any take, but I wanted to hear your opinion on that as well.
So it depends, which segment we will talk about in terms of this segment, because what I see, we have a lot of really good biotech startups, the companies which discover new compounds, or they have the idea for the new drug, but it requires a lot of investment. So I think what needs to change in our country to really help biotech to speed up is the speed up with the, at the discovery and process development stage. Because, this is the space, this is the stage when, there are much more unknowns. And this is where we have like the lack comparing to the rest of the Europe or US. On the other hand, we have really good specialists, not only IT engineers, but in general, the specialists, also the biotech engineers and specialists, the biology engineers. So I think there is a knowledge, there are skills here.
But the problem is that I think that we're becoming a hub, but rather from the service perspective than product, right? I mean, I know there are a lot of companies are struggling with that, so they cannot really get into the market with their products and find global clients. But I agree completely. The talent is here. And from, we talked a lot about the business aspects and the companies you're involved with. But what about? I also know that you're pretty active on the community level, on the mentorship level, and coaching. Like, how do you find time for this? That's the first question. Second is, what are the initiatives that you support or you're most proud of?
I don't know how how I find the time for it. It is like the magic sometimes, which happens. But first of all, there are people who helped me, in the past. So I got some, real good role models. It is not that there were like many people, but I had really few very good examples, and because they helped me, at the different stages, like first of all, maybe believing in myself, in doing the really hard things, which I was afraid of, or, starting something new, jumping from, one domain of IT into another domain in IT. So, yeah, based on this experience, I just decided that, it was like the natural that I need to help a little bit. And others, yeah. And the first area was to help women or girls to jump into IT more often, because first of all, I was surrounded mostly by men, mostly. But looking at my background, I started studying the philology. I didn't start with IT systems. I discovered also that that IT systems or IT is in generally not that difficult, that you can learn it, even, not having the math degree or information technology degree. Yeah. So I wanted to, encourage or inspire girls, not women. At that moment, it was girls to really, at least try this path of the education and not be afraid of technology in general, because IT technology cannot hurt us.
So, what are the communities, especially for young women, girls, as you said, as you mentioned? What are the communities that you would recommend, maybe joining or following at least in the CE? They can be around here.
So right now I'm quite active in the Vital Voices Foundation, and this is the global foundation. It was launched by Hillary Clinton and Margaret Albright, but it has its Polish chapter, and it is focusing on developing the leadership potential in women and girls. So it has different programs for, teens, girls, up to the almost executive level of the female leaders. And I think that I'm most active, currently in that community. I don't have really time right now for others programs, and having like 2 mentees per year, it's really time consuming. So you can have more, but if you want to do the good job, it's better to have less. Then this is not about the numbers of mentees, but rather the quality of the impact you can have on your career or life.
Right. It's also part of the give back strategy or philosophy that you have, right? You mentioned that. But you mentioned, like, of course, no time for that. I know it's time consuming, but you do have time for example, publishing. And I know you're a co-author of 2 books and some patents. So, like, is it a part of your rather? I mean, is connected with business, or is it rather something that you do as of interest and it's completely separate, or it's connected and it's rather just concerning business mainly? Because I saw that some of them are rather scientific rather than just business oriented.
Yeah, so I think there are like 2 parts of the story. So currently at Modica, we have 2 patents application in progress, during the validation. And this is really, business oriented. So I knew that we need to protect IPs, and really try to evaluate, which part of our technology is the most innovative and how to protect it. So we have those two applications, during the process. But the rest, it happened really by accident, let's say that way. So, I had some knowledge. I do some, stuff, things, projects. And usually there was somebody close to me working with me, inviting me for some of those opportunities. Maybe you would write a chapter to my book. And this is also how I started to collaborate with many universities, especially here in Poland with Warsaw Military Academia and Warsaw University, Warsaw University of Technology. So this is how it started, and it was more like a hobby, and really having fun of sharing and doing something on top of the job. So not really close. Yeah, it was somehow related with the business because it was based on the expertise I had, and the expertise I had was related to the business and the things I knew at that moment. But yeah, so it is like the side effect.
Yeah, I mean, the best things come out of it usually. So closer to the end, we always ask our guests about advice, but this time I'll rather, maybe it will be a question about advice, but you mentioned you support women, you're engaged in those communities and how to just encourage them to join tech in general. So what would be the general advice for young women aspiring to join the business, in a sense, or maybe not even young, or any women trying to get to either tech or software development? What would be the general advice?
So I think that, Jan, I could surprise you, but I'm not sure if I would recommend joining IT right now for everyone. So this is the first thing, that IT is changing a lot right now, and it's really hard to say what kind of the jobs still would be available in 3-5 years, and which of those jobs would disappear. I don't know. Yeah, the IT is changing. The whole landscape of roles, professions. I don't know. I just realized recently over the last year, when we experiment, all of us, with the generative AI, that maybe having some hard hands-on skills is also worth to consider in your professional career, or even, after work. But in general, I don't push people to, woman or man, doesn't matter, to work in IT. The main thing for me is really to understand yourself, and that helped me to understand myself, and then to follow where I feel the most vital.
First of all, thank you very much for joining us today and for sharing the story and your thoughts. And just for the audience, where can we find you? Is it you prefer LinkedIn, where you can follow the path and the publications?
I think that LinkedIn is, the best way to connect. I don't use the other social media, so it's the best way.
Thank you very much for joining today.
Thanks for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Stay in touch with us. Subscribe to our podcast, give us a like, comment, or share. If you want to reach out personally, you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram.